Okay, so tomorrow on December 8th, Mrs. Augustine is having an exam on topic 7. You may go on to Digits and look at the review homework. I unfortunately don't have the capability to display both screens right now, but I am working on some technology to allow me to do that. Until then, you'll have to make do with what I have in front of me. So, I created a little box notes example sheet, and I will go ahead and upload one that includes each of these terms. You must know factoring and have an example. Must have distribution with an example. That's from 7.1. 7.3, you must have combining like terms with an example. 7.4, subtracting algebraic expressions with an example. That is the same thing as combining like terms, except you have this little guy right here, which is a negative sign instead of a positive sign. It's essentially the same idea, however the negative is going to influence everything in the parentheses, which I believe I uploaded an example of earlier this week. So feel free to go back and look. So I am going to go on to an example of what was in our homework assignment for tonight, or what is in the homework assignment. Go ahead and let me fix this. Perfect. Okay, I hope it's not too dark for us. Once again, working on some more technology we can use. So, on number 5, they give you this pair to factor, and they say that somebody incorrectly factors it, and what you have to do is factor it correctly. So I'm going to show another example of factoring, because I noticed a lot of my students completely forgot how to do it. You don't need to have this on yours, but I do recommend if your kid doesn't know how to factor, please have them put an example on their test. So, factoring. The end game is to have some 3 numbers. You're going to have one here outside the parentheses who's going to multiply into this character and this character. Alright, so what I have to do is I need to break down the numbers that they provide me. And how I can do that is I can look for the greatest common factor or multiple. It's the same idea, we just use this term to describe it. So I'm trying to think what number is shared in 9 and 12. Meaning if I were to multiply, what number multiplies into 9 and into 12? Well, I know the only number that is common would be 3. So I'll take 3 out of each side. And I have 3 times something equals 9. I know from my good calculation skills or use of a calculator that 3 times 3 equals 9. And then I have to bring my x down because he's what's left over. So then I have negative 12. I have to think of what numbers multiply into negative 12. Well, I know 3 times something equals 12. I know that's 4 because of my good calculation skills. I'll bring my x and y down. Okay, so my x times my y. Now there's one more thing. Because this guy's going to be negative, Mrs. Augustine taught us you should do a negative 1 on the outside. Because you know you want this product here, sum of all these guys, and the multiple of all these guys to equal a negative number. And so my next job is just to look at both sides and identify who is the same. I see a 3 here and a 3 here, so I know they're the same. I see a 3 here, but I don't have a 3 on the other side, so I'm just going to move on. My x, on the other hand, there's an x here and an x there. So now I multiply all those characters that I circled. So I'm going to multiply 3 times x just on one little term here. 3 times x equals 3x. And I write that product on the outside of my parentheses. So I know he's spent, and so is he, because both these guys are now going outside the parentheses, meaning they're going to multiply into this answer to get this guy, and then this answer to get that guy. And I bring everything else that I have down. So here's a 3, there's nothing left on this side, and so I know my 3 gets put there. And now I'm going to multiply everything else. I'll get rid of my 3 just so I don't mess with them again. So 4 times y times a negative 1. Well, I know any number, any positive number times a negative equals a negative. Just excuse that, it's just the phone. Okay. So I have negative 4y. And so I have 3x times 3 times negative 4.